Looking for these better days.
It is Football Friday, October 3rd. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. This is part 2 of our Football Friday series, and we are talking college football in this episode. We did the NFL with Jared Smith. You can go listen to that up on the Better Day podcast feed. But this is College Football Friday, and joining us here is AJ Hoffman. AJ, big story here. Our Air Force and Navy, that game's still going to go on despite the fact that the government right now is being shut down. Nothing can stop the Commander-in-Chief trophy.
Well, I don't know if their NIL payments will go through. I'm not sure. But I will say the government defense spending is very poor with Air Force games these days. Air Force about as bad of a defense as I've seen in a long time for a service academy. So maybe a good day for the Navy.
You know, it's interesting when you look at those games, and we all know the history of service academy games, right? Like it's unders. But I feel like these are two different versions of Air Force and Navy than what we're used to seeing. Like there's going to be more passing, there's going to be more offense.
Yeah, there is, and Air Force is like legitimately dreadful on defense from what we've seen so far. Yeah. I'm not one to go around saying, play overs on service academy games. I just think it's dumb at this point to try it. But they'll be, the number's so low, we got to go for the over. And it's bad business. But I certainly cannot recommend an under on this one. And normally that's the first thing I'm looking for. I'm looking for, is there a service academy that's a double-digit underdog? Or a double-digit favorite. If there is, I want to fade them as a favorite or back them as a dog. And I normally want to play unders, particularly if they're going against another run-heavy team. But here, I just can't find a way to it, man. That Air Force defense is next level bad.
Well, I didn't want to start this program just talking about service academy football, but when the Commander-in-Chief, when the Commander-in-Chief trophy's on the line, and I got AJ Hoffman, a former member of the U.S. Army, I'm always going to bring it up, and he's obviously rooting against both of these teams.
That's right.
Coming up here
Team Space Force.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the top 25 games here for this Saturday. And I want to start with an interesting one. Maybe it's not as sexy as some of the other matchups, but number 22, Illinois, goes to Purdue. They're laying 9.5 points on the road here, AJ. And this is a game where I actually dug up a little trend here, a little system trend here, because it applies to one of the games that I'm actually going to be on, which is on Houston. We'll get to that game in just a few minutes. But in the last 2 seasons, if you beat a top 25 team as an underdog, and then in your next game, you play an unranked team as a favorite, you are 21-40 against the spread in the last 2 seasons. If you go back since the start of 2021, you're 42-67 against the spread. So these are bad situations for both Texas Tech and Illinois here going to Purdue.
Well, yeah, and if you're Illinois, you're in a real sandwich spot. Like you just had 2 games that you had circled, Indiana and USC. Now you've got this game against Purdue, who's dreadful. Make no mistake, any bet you place on Purdue, it's going to hurt. It's not going to be a fun bet. And on Saturday, you're not going to be watching this game feeling comfortable because it's going to Purdue's not going to jump out to a 14-0 lead where you're just going to be able to coast. It's not how betting on Purdue works. But the look ahead for Indiana or for Illinois is Ohio State and Washington. So for a team that really had, high hopes coming into this season, this is one of the games, this Purdue game was one of the overlooked games. I don't know if it'll still be an overlook because they lost one of those games, and the one that they lost was in such painful fashion. But it's hard to expect them to be as up as they've been the last 2 weeks or as they'll be expected to be in the next 2 weeks. Purdue, like I said, not a fun team to back, but it's the only way I could look in this one.
Yeah, up on the FanDuel Sportsbook, and all of these odds are courtesy of FanDuel. It is Illinois minus 9.5, but I am starting to see some 8.5s.
So. Oh, yeah. See, I was going to say if we see 10s, yeah, but I think the days of the 10 are gone. You could have gotten a 10 earlier in the week. I'm kind of regretting that I didn't do it. But yeah, I would not back it now, especially if you start getting into 8.5. The market's figured this one out.
Number 12, Georgia hosts Kentucky. We'll see if the Bulldogs can pick themselves up off the mat after suffering that loss to Alabama last week, snapping a 33 straight game winning streak between the hedges. Georgia laying 20.5 here over Kentucky, AJ.
Yeah, Kirby, this is one of the games where Kirby usually just kind of takes off the gas a little bit. In conference, when he's a 20-point favorite, he's about 33% against the spread. It's just these aren't the games that he's not a guy who's like, I'm just going to show. He's not Lane Kiffin,
I was about to say he's not Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, he doesn't want to show his
He's
stuff
not
if
James
he doesn't
Franklin.
have to. Yeah, he's not looking to embarrass bad teams. He's looking to save his best stuff for the days where he's going to need it. Now, coming off a loss, I could see him wanting to say, hey, we want to get right here. I will say they're going to be able to run at will against this Kentucky team. They're going to have a lot of success on the ground, which I think also kind of plays maybe to an under. Like I said, you're going to see Kirby look to probably keep the ball on the ground. He's not going to want to show a bunch. I think Kentucky's probably going to have a hard time scoring. So if anything, I'd probably lean an under, and if I'm leaning an under, I'm not going to lay 20.5, 21 points. So it leans to Kentucky and probably a stronger lean to the under.
Some would call this next game a system play. Cincinnati is a 1.5-point home favorite over number 14 Iowa State. I jokingly say system play because it feels like every time there's a ranked team that is an underdog, to an unranked team, people are going to say, well, of course we're going to bet the number 14 team in the nation. Cincinnati is one of my best bets of the week, AJ. I love them to win this game, and I'd rather than go with the 1.5, I'll just take them on the money line. Right now on FanDuel, it's minus 126. I'm comfortable laying that here with Cincinnati on the money line. Their offensive line has been so impressive this season. They've allowed just one sack. Meanwhile, Iowa State is 124th in pass rush grade. They're 53rd in the nation in tackles for loss. Cincy's offensive line has allowed the fourth fewest tackles for loss. Brendan Sorsby is one of the highest graded quarterbacks this season on PFF. And another thing that impresses me about Cincinnati is that you realize they are one of just 13 teams this season that is a perfect 100% in red zone efficiency.
Man. Yeah,
and they've scored 14 touchdowns in 17 trips.
There's a lot to like about Cincinnati's offense, and I'm with you on Cincinnati. Cincinnati, one of my favorite bets of the weekend too. And a lot of what you said is what I'm into about them. Their offense just seems to be fully clicking. But also, this Iowa State, as you look back through their schedule, and we remember that win over Kansas State in Ireland when everybody was like, oh, what a big win. This could be for the Big 12, to be one of these teams might be the best team in the Big 12. Well, it turns out Kansas State stinks. They're no good at all. Arkansas State, that win is not good. That's not a good, a lot of people thought Arkansas State was going to be good in the Sun Belt. They're just not a good football team. They beat Iowa, which I guess kudos to them on, but I just don't know that I trust this team, and I don't know that I trust this team to be treated like they're a ranked team. I think they're Big 12 good, which doesn't mean a whole lot, but I think Cincinnati's also Big 12 good, and they're at home. Yeah, I like anything under a 3. I like on Cincinnati. I think the best way to do it is the way I did it as well was to bet the money line. I bet it a little bit earlier this week when the spread was just minus 1.5, and it was like minus 115 for the money line. I was like, well, I'll just pay the extra 5 cents and not worry about losing by a point. But yeah, I do like Cincinnati quite a bit this week. I think this is a good spot for them.
The big noon kickoff game is not really a big noon kickoff. Number 20, Michigan, is a 17.5-point favorite over Wisconsin. Low total, though, of 43.5. And that's the first thing that jumps out to me, AJ, is when you have a spread this high, but a total this low, it feels like almost it's like the line is begging you to take Wisconsin plus the points.
Well, the line can beg all at once.
I was about to say, can't you see Michigan just winning this game 34-0?
I can. Wisconsin, that game against Maryland, that's an embarrassing result that they just had. I thought Maryland was like a garbage bottom of the barrel Big Ten team. So for Wisconsin to not just lose to them, but to lose handily to Maryland, Wisconsin is not nearly as good as they're not nearly as good as they've been in recent years, but I was giving them way more credit than I think I should have. I think Wisconsin might just be outright a bad football team. Michigan's not that. and Michigan's not what they were with Harbaugh, but they're pretty solid. And Underwood seems like he's getting a little bit better every week. His weapons are finally starting to blossom, and they're defensively. I think they're gonna throw some things at Wisconsin that they're not gonna do well with. So. Unfortunately, you're like you said, in a game that I don't expect there to be a ton of points, the number's hard for me to get to. I could easily see a Wisconsin team total under. I think that might be a good play because I do kind of lean to the under. I don't know what Michigan's going to do offensively any given time, but I do think Wisconsin has a hard time moving the football. I just don't. All trust I had for that Wisconsin team is gone after last week.
Team total for Wisconsin right now, 12 and a half.
Yeah, I wouldn't shock me if they're under 10 or if they're at 10.
Top 25 matchup here. Number 16, Vanderbilt at number 10, Alabama. Alabama 10.5 point favorites with a total of 55.5. I played Vandy plus the 10.5, AJ. I also played the over in this game. I don't hate if you want to go Vandy team total to go over as well. Now, I understand that Vandy plays at one of the most deliberate, slowest paces in the country.
Well, but they've been very efficient.
So possessions can be at a premium, but you just hit the nail on the head. They've been incredibly efficient. Vandy is the fourth best third down team in the country. Alabama ranks 101st in third down defense. They're both Vanderbilt in the red zone, 28 scores in 29 red zone trips, and 25 of them have been touchdowns. I know it sounds like just cliche, Diego Pavia, just go with him as an underdog. He dominates. He dominates as an underdog. This is the 51st consecutive conference game where Vanderbilt is an underdog. How crazy is that?
That is crazy.
Now, I'm not begging for them to be a favorite in this game, but I think that trend is going to change after this week's performance. Like, Vanderbilt could win this game outright. And it's also a classic letdown spot for Alabama. So I looked this up. In the history of the database, if you win as an underdog in a top 25 matchup and now you are favored, 86-111 against the spread.
Okay.
And since 2021, 15-26 against the spread. So Alabama riding the high after getting the win between the hedges now has to face Diego Pavia and this Vanderbilt team. I get it. It's the revenge spot that everyone's going to bring up because Alabama lost last year. But I think Vandy can put up points here and keep this thing close.
I mean, everything you said makes sense. And if my numbers didn't have it 13 on a neutral, I'd be with you. But the fact that my numbers have it 13 on a neutral and I'm not betting Alabama minus 10.5 at home tells you that I just don't want anything to do with what I don't want anything to do against backing Diego Pavia as a big dog.
Would you play the over?
I think the over is probably a good look. I do think that Pavia, particularly as a mobile quarterback, that's what gives Alabama in that it's not just the DeBoer Alabama, but it has been. But it gave Saban Alabama teams trouble as well, and he's got some of those qualities. My biggest issue is this game last year was a 24-point Alabama favored on the road. And now we're at 10.5. Like, is it really that much changed for either of these teams? Like, has it been that dramatic of a shift that now, we're willing to shave 14 points off the spread? I have a hard time with that. And the one thing I will say is Ty Simpson has really proven to me that he is an elite thrower. I was unsure if he was going to be like, if you hear these guys that are dual threat. And Ty Simpson, I know he can move around, but he's proven now that he can throw the freaking football. And the only way to beat Vanderbilt is to throw on him. Vanderbilt's really solid in the trenches. They're very difficult to run on. And Alabama, we saw it last week. They're having a real hard time getting a running game going. But I do think that they're going to be throwing the ball a little bit. I think that is an advantage where Alabama is going to have some opportunities down the field. Like you said, man, there's a lot of stuff that makes me want to back Pavia, and I'm certainly not. I don't like anything about Bama enough to bet against Diego as a big dog. But I just can't get to it because my power rankings are so off of what this number is. To me, this this I would expect this to be 14 and a half. So I just can't get there at 10.5.
Yeah, to me, I'm pulling the trigger just because I'm backing Pavia, but I do think the over is in play in this game because I do think both teams are going to score. And you mentioned Ty Simpson, AJ. That was one of the things that when I started the Bet US college football show this week. the first thing, I always like to start the first episode of the week, like kind of saying, "Hey, has anybody changed any opinions from what we saw last week? Like any opinion change?" And my big opinion change was Ty Simpson's good.
Oh, he's
Like
good, man.
I was down on him. I really was because and
It's because
listen,
of
the
the
game
Florida
against
State
Florida.
game.
Yeah,
We saw
sure,
him in
yes,
that Florida State game and we went, ugh. And
yep,
ever since
yep,
then, he's been phenomenal. So
yeah,
I'm just going to mark it up as it was the kid's first start. It was on the road.
hmm
I
yep,
mean, those things are going to happen. Like Ty Simpson to me is one of the better quarterbacks in the country right
yes.
now.
Yes, he has definitely impressed me and a lot of other people around the country. Let's move on to our next game. Number 9, Texas is at Florida. Texas is laying 4.5. Total here is low at 42.5. I will say, AJ, that weather could be a factor in this game. We do have rain in the forecast, thunderstorms in the forecast there in Gainesville, and anytime there's thunderstorms, it in Florida, you have the potential of a weather delay.
Yeah.
Like, I would not be surprised if we have a weather delay at some point in this game. I know that Sark has been saying all the right things about, hey, we always practice with wet footballs. Like, we always practice with wet footballs. So the rain's not going to bother us at all. Is the rain going to bother them here? If it is a sloppy track there at the swamp, which could turn into a swamp, and a possible weather delay there in Gainesville.
Yeah, I think it could. And I think that's why you're seeing the money push towards Florida. But I think the other thing we saw last week with Florida is Billy Napier is now he's really tight. The 2 weeks ago when DJ Lagway threw 5 picks against LSU, like you saw him just thinking, "Oh my God, I am so fired." And I'm not saying he should or shouldn't be, but he probably thought he was. So last week in a big game, he goes out against Miami and he's got DJ Lagway. I mean, throwing 2 or 3 yards down the field max. He took every bit of trust away from DJ Lagway. And if DJ Lagway can't make big plays, what's the point of having him on the field? Like DJ Lagway to me is such a boom or bust guy. Like you're putting him out there because you want those home runs, but you have to understand there's going to be a lot of strikeouts that come with them. And you basically said, okay, well, no more of that. We're now turning you into to Luis Ariz. We want you bunting. We want you singles only.
Hmm
Florida's not scary if they're hitting singles only. And the thing that jumped out to me was they've not had an offense going yet, and now they are playing against the best defense they've seen, and yet Florida's team totals 18 and a half. I don't think there's any way that Florida scores over 18 and a half points in this game. Texas is whatever the problems Texas on offense has, and they've got plenty. This is not a good offense. They're terrible finishing drives. They're terrible in the red zone. The defense has been elite. And I have a really hard time picturing Florida with this dink and dunk stuff. And I imagine with a wet football, you think Billy Napier is going to say,
Yeah.
"Yeah, throw it further. Let's go down the field." I can't picture that. I think Florida is going to be very conservative, and I think they're going to have almost no success. I lean to an under generally in the game, even before the weather. I liked the under, but with this weather, I just think that Florida's going to have a hard time doing anything. So that's my favorite play on this game is the team total under. I really like a first half under too. Texas has been just dominant in the first half, so in first quarters of these games. If you want to narrow it down a little bit further, they just don't let anything happen early in these games. The defensive game plan is so spot on. I think we see more of the same here, and I do think Texas ekes out a win. But I think at the end of it, we're gonna be back to our questions about Arch. Like, is this guy for real?
Yeah.
And I think we'll also be talking about DJ Lagway and like, no, this guy is not for real. I just don't. I think Billy Napier's clipped DJ's wings, and maybe it's a good thing in a close game. I just don't think there's anything worth having if he's not going to be able to take chances.
Couple more games. Let's get to number 24, Virginia, a 6.5 point road dog at Louisville, and the total of 60.5. Another one of those cases where a top 25 team is an underdog to an unranked team. I think the spread's right here, and I have concerns of the letdown factor. Virginia storming the field
Yeah.
last week. Everyone's pumped up. You storm the field. Well, now you got to go play a talented team on the road here in Louisville. So
All right,
I did it. I didn't
General
lay it,
agreement.
but
I
I think
think that
that's
this the spot says Louisville, but
yeah,
the line has baked that in. So
yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
I'm passing on that game.
All right. Number 11, Texas Tech at Houston. Texas Tech, 11 and a half point favorites. I played Houston already. This is one of my better bets of the week. I love Houston here catching the points, and I love the under in this game as well.
Well,
These are two of the better defenses in the country. Like I just don't see where the points are coming from here. Baron Morton did clear concussion protocol, so he's likely going to play for Texas Tech. And people are going to compare both teams' results against Oregon State, right? But Texas Tech blew them out. That was at home. And
yeah.
Houston had to go to Corvallis for like that late night game, Pac 12 after dark. Like, yeah, those are two different situations. But look at both these defenses, AJ. Texas Tech, fifth best in yards per play. Houston, ninth best in yards per play. Both teams are 23rd and 24th in third down defense. Both have allowed the ninth fewest red zone trips by opponents. The difference to me in both these teams is Houston is fourth in defensive havoc. So maybe they can create a negative play or two, but can Connor Wegman and the Houston offense make enough plays against this Texas Tech defense?
Yeah, that's why while I lean the way you're leaning on, or the way that you're playing on Houston, I like the under a lot more. I think this Houston offense is a disaster. They're, right now, they're beat up right now. They're missing a lot of bodies, but B, they have just been unable to find consistent quarterback play. And I've been talking about it on my show here. All these former A&M quarterbacks all around the country, like Haynes King's balling out. Everybody's having a good time. Meanwhile, this guy is just struggling to get anything going, Connor Wegman. So I don't trust, and that's a very expensive, very pretty shiny defensive line that Texas Tech has. They're going to be
Oh,
after
yeah.
him. I think if you like Houston, you have to. I mean, you have to like the under.
Hmm.
If this thing gets played in the 30s, UH is almost hopeless. I think so. You have to hope that what we've seen from Houston's defense so far is legit, and they're the team that's able to slow down this Texas Tech juggernaut. It was my initial lean. I ended up passing on the side and just played on the total, but kind of lean your way. But I just don't know how much I can trust UH's offense right now.
And finally, number 3, Miami is at number 18, Florida State. Miami, a 4.5 point road favorite, total of 53.5. Did you play anything on this one?
I didn't play anything on it. I wanted to play Florida State. I just can't get there. I trust Beck so much more than I trust Castellanos. And the spot should be Florida State coming off a loss. Oh yeah, this feels like the time to back them.
I lean over.
I think over is probably a good look. And Castellanos has had some success against this type of defense. Would not shock me to see it happen again here. But I just think Carson Beck's playing on another level. And I know everybody's saying, well, he's at some point it's going to fall off the map. At some points, and it might, but I haven't seen it yet. This guy looks pretty legit. I know that Miami's going to keep trying to score, even if they're up on this thing. So over may be the way to look at this one. Like I said, the spot made me want to take the Knowles. I just can't do it because I just don't trust that team right now.
And I did look it up just to see because there is, weather factors that are going to be in Gainesville, but for Tallahassee, we do not have the same weather report.
You know what's
So,
crazy is Florida State won 2 football games last year. And now it's like they lose to Virginia and everyone's like, oh, this season's ruined. I mean, Florida State was in the bottoms of the bottoms a year ago.
yeah.
The season's not ruined. Man. You could win 7 games and it'd be a huge upgrade. I think Florida State still is looking at it that way. A lot of these guys were around last year when they were getting their ass kicked week in and week out. I think this team's got some pride, man. I think that they're going to keep showing a little bit of fight. I just think that this is a tough ask. I think this Miami team, and if they win here, I think we're gonna have to start looking at Miami a little bit differently. This team is pretty legit. Seems to be like the class of the ACC.
Any other best bets from you as far as games coming up this weekend? I know it's a big number, but I'm laying it with Penn State against UCLA. I think this is a spot where James Franklin is going to score as many points as possible to kind of erase the sour taste of the loss to Oregon last week. Plus, UCLA just fired their offensive coordinator. The head coach we already know was gone a couple of weeks ago. But it's funny, like you didn't fire the offensive coordinator with the head coach. You let him stick around another week, and now you fire the offensive coordinator. So just bizarre circumstances going on there at UCLA. So I want to fade them at all costs. And another team that I want to fade at all costs is Oklahoma State. Arizona is a 20.5 point favorite. But this situation for Oklahoma State has gotten so bad, AJ, that I mean, players are now leaving. Like
Yeah.
they're deciding to take their red shirts and they're saying, "Hey, we don't want to play anymore. We're gonna transfer." So I think everyone's bailing on this Oklahoma State program right now.
Yeah, I'll back you on the Oklahoma State one. I like Arizona this weekend. A little nervous about Penn State just because I think we maybe have found the bottom of the UCLA market. I mean, they've been dreadful, no doubt about it. But they did show a little bit of fight last week, and they ended up costing me because I thought that we had one more swipe at them against Northwestern, and they got a
Yeah.
late touchdown to screw me. But I like your look there. I'll give you one that's kind of probably nobody else is even considering. Appalachian State against Oregon State. Oregon State was in a rock fight last week. Thought they had a
Yep.
chance to get a pretty solid win. Came up short, and now this weird scheduling stuff comes into play for them, where they're going across the country and playing in Appalachian State, like a
Yeah.
game that means nothing. And I just think that they are a mess. I think the travel, I think there's a lot of things piled into this thing. Whereas Appalachian State, even though Oregon State's no longer a Pac 12 team, that's still a game that those players are going to be pumped for. So I think this game just means a lot more to Appalachian State than it does to Oregon State. Spot is great with Oregon State having to come across the country, and I think that we get a good performance out of Appalachian State. I like them -1.5, or kind of like we talked about earlier, just playing the money line on like the Cincinnati game on a game like that. So
Yep.
Appalachian State will be the other one that I'll be looking for under the radar.
And that is I'm going to do it. I'm going to do App State, and the money line up on FanDuel right now is -118. That is going to be a play here for us on Better Day. He is AJ Hoffman. Check him out on Twitter at AJ is the real. You can catch his show mornings, Monday through Friday on 94.1. Did I get that right?
That's right.
94.1. San Antonio's Sports Star. So for you Texas fans, you can go there, check out AJ. All that stuff's online as well. Got some great interviews. They are the official affiliate of the Dallas Cowboys as well. So a lot of Cowboys talk on AJ's show. For you Cowboys fans out there, that's America's team. Go and check out AJ's stuff. Again, there on Twitter at AJ is the real. For AJ Hoffman, I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's hoping you make today and every day a better day.